Part 73. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 721. Sometimes the countryside where Zhou Lang was going was far away and he was not very familiar with the place. He was afraid of being bullied in the village, so he would occasionally take two people with him to the countryside. Zhou Lejun knew that those people usually squat on the street to beg for food, but as long as they are found with work, no matter how coolie they will do it. Zhou Lejun was not surprised that Zhou Lang would find them. She found a child in front of a restaurant on Kangxiu Street and asked, "Where is San'er?" The kid also recognized Zhou Lejun. He thought about it carefully, and said, "He was at Gangxiang Tower last night. Where do you go and look for him?" Although beggars have a certain territory, they are also mobile. So when Zhou Lejun brought San'er to the leader's house, Man Bao came back from the pharmacy. Sans Hung was holding a bowl of noodles and eating with relish. When he saw another person coming in from the small courtyard, he turned around a little uncomfortably. Zhou Lang immediately introduced to him, "This is my youngest sister." Man Bao waved his hand to greet him, then put down his back basket and sat next to Zhou Lang, glanced at his hands before looking at San'er. "I know you, I've seen you before." San'er was stunned. Zhou Lang was afraid that she would tell about the fact that they gave them the bad food they cooked before, so he immediately interjected, "I know you have a good memory, and people who meet you will remember it. I called San'er here, there is something urgent." Zhou Lang took the opportunity to bring up the matter of hiring someone to transport the grain, and he said to Man Bao and San'er, "I haven't seen Dechong for a while, so I want you to call Dechong for 6 of them for me. If you want to hire them to drive the car, you only need to go back and forth once or twice." San'er asked, "How much is the salary?" Zhou Lang said, 80 yuan, we'll cover all the food for the round trip." San'er's eyes lit up, and said, "Brother Zhou, can you look at me?" Zhou Lang looked at the 8 or 9-year-old San'er speechless. San'er said, "Brother Dechong and the others didn't get any land this time, so they left with a group of merchants, saying that they couldn't be refugees and beggars in Yazhu City for the rest of their lives. We are young, so we won't be able to get any land." He said, "But Brother Zhou, don't look at our young age, we can both drive cars and move goods, at worst we only need half of the wages." Zhou Lang didn't want to agree at first, but when he heard that he only needed half of the salary, he couldn't help but ask, "Who else is there besides you?" "And my eldest brother and second brother Quanzi and the others." "If you want 6 people, we will have 6. Zhou Lang looked at San'er with fixed eyebrows. Man Bao also looked at San'er and asked, "Are they as old as you?" San'er straightened his back nervously, and said, "Brother Zhou met them, they are a little older than me, they are already 14 years old." "Fart is 14 years old," Zhou Lang said. "How do you figure out that they are 14 years old? The oldest of them is only 12 or 3 years old. Driving a cart is no problem. Anyway, it's easy for ox carts and mule carts. When encountering robbers, do you expect them, a group of brats, to rush forward and fight for their lives?" San'er immediately said, "Brother Zhou, don't underestimate us, we are very good at robbing things. If we really encounter robbery, we may be better than those coolies you hired on the street." Seeing that they all looked at him suspiciously, San'er said anxiously, "Really, I didn't lie to you, we are very good at robbing things, even the adults are not our opponents, when we return to Yazhu City all the way back with people grabbing food." Zhou Lang hesitated, but Man Bao made a final decision, "Okay, I want you." Thursday Lang glared at her. San'er looked at Zhou Lang cautiously. His own sister has agreed, so can he take back his words? Zhou Lang could only nod his head. San'er cheered, put down the bowl and shouted, "Then I'll tell my elder brother and them now." After that, he ran away. Only then did Zhou Lang wait and stare at Man Bao and said, "Why did you agree?" Man Bao said, "As long as you know how to drive, you don't have to worry about being robbed. Why? Man Bao chuckled and said, I'll go to Tang County Magistrate. If he hasn't caught you yet, I'll ask him to send someone to pick you up on the way. With so many of us, I don't believe it. A thief dares to rob you. You're so powerful, how can you ask County Magistrate Tang to send someone to pick us up? It wasn't possible at first, but now it's possible, Man Bao said with a smile. Today we picked up a man with an arm injury in our pharmacy. Do you know who he is and how he was injured? Who? How did you get hurt? Brother Yaman servant, I don't know who spread the news about you being robbed on the road. The merchants passing by on the official road these 2 days are very worried. Among them are a few medicine merchants who donated medicinal materials to the county government this time. They, after walking to the county government office, Tang County Magistrate sent someone to escort them halfway, so there are often government servants on the official road during this time. Man Bao said, since there are often Yaman servants, please ask Tang County Magistrate to take care of us as well. After all, this business is done with their county Yaman. We are safe, and their affairs are going well, right? Jojo Lang was very curious, how did the Yaman servant get injured? Could it be that they ran into the robbers who robbed them? No, because he didn't look at the road when he was walking, he stepped on a small stone by the side of the road, his foot slipped and fell, and he supported it with his hands, and then his hand was injured. Thursday Lang. Man Bao said, it's enough for them to drive a car. The wages are cheap. They only need 40 yuan a day. If you think about it, you can save 40 yuan a day. It takes 3 days to go back and forth. That's 120 yuan less for one person when, those 6 people are. Jojo Lang counted with his fingers, but found that he couldn't, so he looked at Zhou Lejun. Zhou Lejun, 720 essays. Jojo's eyes were straightened, he slapped his thigh and said, it's all right, let's use them, don't let anyone stop me. Zhou Lejun ignored him, hugged Man Bao's arm and asked, Grandpa and the others should have received the letter, right? The letter has been sent out for 3 days. As a result, not long after they finished speaking, they heard a knock on the door next door, and then heard a very familiar voice say, excuse me, is there any family nearby who came here to study from Lujiang County? My husband's surname is Chuang, and the students I lead are 2 surnamed Bai and 1 surnamed Zhou. Man Bao was taken aback for a moment, then jumped up and rushed out to open the door. Looking outside, he saw that the neighbor had just come out, and the 2 men standing in front of the door were bending slightly to look at their neighbor. Man Bao shouted happily, second brother, 6th brother. Tuesday Lang and Saturday Lang turned their heads immediately, and couldn't help but smile. Man Bao rushed out to hug the 2 of them, and yelled, second brother, 6th brother, why are you here? Zhou Lejun rushed out after him, also shouting, father, 6th uncle. He also rushed up, but didn't hug them, just stood and cheered at them. Jojo Lang walked out cautiously with his right hand supporting his waist. Jojo Lang and Saturday Lang were both stunned when they saw Jojo Lang. Jojo Lang hurried up, carefully looking at his hands, 4th brother, are you disabled? Lu Liaolang was about to cry, and said with red eyes, don't worry, 4th brother, we will take care of 4th sister-in-law and the child from now on. Jojo Lang, I'm just disabled, not dead, no, I'm not disabled either. First of all, today is the number 1, the birthday of the motherland, happy birthday to the motherland. Secondly, today is the first day of the holiday, I wish you all a happy national day and have fun. Third, anyway, I was having a lot of fun, so I lost my game, and the update was a little bit behind me, so I decided to update 2 chapters every day from the 1st to the 4th. After I go back on the 5th, I will pay back the 4th watch that I owed for these 4 days. Finally, good night. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 722. Jojo Lang and Saturday Lang looked around Jojo Lang, and asked Man Bao for a long time. After confirming that Jojo Lang would not be disabled, he was relieved, and immediately took the bag and thanked the neighbors to go home with them. Before, the fourth brother only told us that you lived in the second alley from Kangxiu Street, but didn't say which household it was. We could only ask along the way. After entering the yard, Zhou Lijun immediately poured water for them, and Man Bao then asked, "Second brother, why are you here?" Jojo Lang drank the water and said, "Can we not come? My family was scared to death when they received your letter. We packed up our things and came here the next day. We took a short ride. The caravan wants to go away. We have no choice but to walk on our own, hurrying, and we just entered the city today." Jojo Lang said, "We were very worried along the way, and you didn't say clearly in your letter, you only said that the fourth child was robbed, everything was robbed, and the person was beaten, but you didn't say anything about him. My father and mother didn't fall asleep all night, so they asked me to go to the county town and call Lao Lu to have a look at it before dawn the next day." In fact, his father's original words were, "If something happens to someone, at least the fallen leaves will return to their roots. Don't let him fall outside. Man Bao and Arya are still young, so don't wrong the fourth child." At that time, the Zhou family felt very heavy. The Zhou family brothers were more optimistic than the old Zhou Tiou. They felt that the fourth child was really going to die, so it was impossible not to mention it in the letter. However, I am still very worried about Zhou Hulang's situation in my heart. After all, it is a robbery. Who knows what the injury will be like? Now they have received repeated assurances from Man Bao, knowing that Zhou Lang's arm will not be damaged, they start to teach Zhou Lang a lesson. "Jojo Lang, I told you a long time ago that you should keep a low profile when doing things, especially things that make money. If you don't shout out, who knows that you are transporting wheat seeds? Can others rob you?" Jojo Lang was angry. "I didn't yell, how do I know how those people know that there are wheat seeds in my car?" Saturday Lang said, "Fourth brother, you are so stupid. If they rob you, just let them carry you away. Can you still want to fight with a dozen of them by yourself? You are not lucky." He said, "My fifth brother and I fought when we were young, and you taught us to run away if we couldn't fight, but you ran away." That's right, Jojo Lang found another reason to scold Jojo Lang, and scolded him even more confidently. "He's still the overlord of Qilai village. Did you make money and lose your mind in the past 6 months? Who said I didn't want to run? Then I have to be able to run away," Jojo Lang shouted. "As soon as they rushed up, they dragged me out of the carriage, threw me to the ground and beat and kicked me. What can I do? Was about to shrink back like a turtle, and they must beat him to death. And, can I really run? It doesn't matter if you don't want the wheat seeds. Can I lose the horse? Do you know how much a horse costs? It's not our horse." So Jojo Lang met behind him who had a tendency to rob. Chen Erlang wanted to keep the carriage so much. Seeing that the fourth brother was blushing with excitement, thinking that his mind was still not clear, Man Bao hurriedly helped Jojo Lang to speak. "Second brother, sixth brother, don't talk about fourth brother, who would want to encounter such a thing as robbery, don't care how those people know, they are bad people anyway." That's right, Jojo Lang said aggrievedly, "if you don't scold the person who robbed me, why are you scolding me?" "Who says not to scold?" Jojo Lang said, "we have scolded all the way, isn't this scolding you when we have scolded enough?" "Luli Alang, not only we scolded, but also my father and mother scolded at home. They scolded so badly that my father and mother even went to ask the Lord Tianzun to send down the thunder to strike those wicked people to death. Man Bao, there has been no thunder in Yazhu city in the past few days." Thursday Lang. After talking about the gossip, he finally got down to business. Jolie Alang asked, "Has the family started harvesting food?" "Fart food collection, we know that you have been robbed, We can't even eat, how can we think about food collection? Jojo Lang said, if it weren't for the yam, privet, and ginger at home now it's the critical time for the harvest, even the eldest brother and the third child will come. Jojo Lang immediately said, second brother, I have already found a good seller for the medicinal materials, so don't sell them fresh and cheap. I know, the fifth daughter-in-law knows how to concoct medicinal materials, and she does better than us. We took it to the pharmacy in the county and asked about it. Shopkeeper Zheng said that it is better than what we did before, so except for some that shopkeeper Zheng asked for, we have collected the rest and will ship them to Yazhu City for you later. Jojo Lang breathed a sigh of relief, looked at Man Bao, and motioned her to mention the matter of hiring people to transport food. Before Man Bao rode back to ask his family to prepare a large number of wheat seeds, Jojo Lang and others didn't pay much attention to it. After all, Zhou Lang's life and death were more important than business. But now that Jojo Lang is alive and well, the business is much more important than Jojo Lang. Jojo Lang thought for a while and said, buying so many wheat seeds at once can't be credited. Our family has to spend all our money, right? Not to mention you are still renting cars and hiring people in Yazhu City. How much does it cost? Man Bao called Zhou Lejun to bring the abacus, and made an account for Jojo Lang, second brother. It will be winter in a few days. Tang County Magistrate wants to distribute all the wheat seeds before the year, then I have to hand over all the wheat seeds to him before the winter solstice. I figured it out. Man Bao and Zhou Lejun have calculated how many jins of wheat a cart can pull, including the purchase price of the wheat, the transportation costs, and labor costs, and how much money they can earn. And they are planning to transport 15 carts of wheat seeds at a time. Jojo Lang was stunned and asked, can you earn so much? Man Bao nodded, asked fourth brother, how much money can he earn by going back and forth? Zhou Yulang didn't need to ask him at all, because the brothers had settled accounts with each other in the past 6 months, and of course he knew how much money Zhou Lang could make on this trip. Although the fourth brother earns more money per car than we rent a car and hire someone to make a car, but his car is one trip, how much can we earn? Jojo Lang struggled violently in his heart, then slapped his thigh and said, okay, tomorrow I will go to the car dealer and take a car back to tell my parents that my eldest brother and I have searched in several nearby villages, and we are looking for 15 lanes. It is not difficult to plant wheat, and it will be ready for you in 3 days at most. Tuesday Lang said, so, 3 days after I leave, you can rent a car and hire people. How about letting Lao Lu take them home to transport food? Lu Liaolang nodded, that's the way to do it, but second brother, I don't have any money on me. It's okay to hire people. Those people I'm looking for can be paid on credit first, and then they will be paid after the bill is settled from Tang County Magistrate. But the car renting a car not only requires rent, but also a deposit, which cannot be owed on credit. The next chapter will be updated around 6 p.m. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 723. Jojo Lang opened his bag, took out a smaller cloth bag from it, and showed him. Inside are 2 well-tied copper coins and 3 5-taels of silver ingots. Jojo Lang said, this is brought by parents, is it enough? Jojo Lang shook his head, at least double the rent is not much, but the deposit is high. Jojo Lang frowned, then looked at Man Bao. Man Bao laughed and said proudly, do you know that I am powerful? I have it. Zhou Yulang reached out and nodded her little head, and said cheerfully, yes, you are the best. First lend the money to the family, and then wait for your fourth brother to get the money from Tang County Magistrate before returning it to you. Jojo Lang said quickly, she probably has to return the money to herself. Second brother, you don't know how powerful she is now. She even made the contract with Magistrate Tang. Zhou Lang, let me tell you, why did you think about signing the contract and think so carefully? It turns out that this business was made by Manbao. Lu Liaolang, fourth brother, are you ashamed? You even bragged with us when you went back, but you actually took the credit for Manbao. Manbao looked at Zhou Lang. Zhou Lang felt overwhelmed, and felt that he should bury himself, who was so excited when he saw the second brother and the sixth child just now. Why are you so excited? It's better not to come here. Zhou Lang and Saturday Lang lived here. They came out in a hurry, and they only thought about Zhou Lang's safety, so they only brought money and a suit of clothes, and nothing else. When Mr. Zhuang and the others came back, Zhou Lang was very embarrassed. Mr. Zhuang didn't care, and said with a smile, I thought you would be coming soon. After all, for such a big event, it is impossible for the Zhou family not to come. After all, he is the disciples' family that he is most satisfied with. Mr. Zhuang asked, have you ever thought about how to do a good job with Tang County Magistrate? Manbao immediately told their plan. Mr. Zhuang nodded slightly, it should have been like this long ago. Zhou Lang, who was drooping his head, looked up at the words, looked at Mr. Zhuang curiously, and asked, why do you say that, sir? Mr. Zhuang smiled peacefully, although I have never done business, I also know that it is better to be fast rather than slow when a good business is confirmed. The sooner you sit down and get the money, the sooner you will make money to this large sum of money. For a businessman, time is also a very precious cost, Mr. Zhuang said, you took this business, but you only thought about going back and forth alone. It seemed that you made a lot of money, but it was not. Mr. Zhuang wanted to talk about it when they signed the contract, but none of his three disciples, from Manbao, Bai Shan, to Bai Cheng, could have thought of this. Instead, he was still clapping and cheering, encouraging Zhou Lang to treat them to delicious food after he made money, but he didn't remind them. He thought, the disciples are so stupid, they are so stupid, they don't think about it, they should sharpen it again. He originally wanted to wait for Zhou Lang to finish the business with great effort, and then settle the account with them slowly, who knew that the first cart of wheat seeds would be robbed. But now, the children finally came to their senses, knowing that they had hired someone to transport the food, so he couldn't help but teach in advance. Of course, Mr. Zhuang not only taught them how to rationalize time and money costs, but also told them several special stories. They are all legends and deeds of some successful businessmen, most of them are historical figures, who have long been annihilated in the long river of history. They have even read some stories about Manbao in books, but some of them have only a few sentences. Mr. Yu Zhuang's detailed and vivid narration is naturally different. Not only Manbao Bai Shan and Bai Cheng Zhou Lejun, but also Zhou Lang were stunned. However, Zhou Lang and the others only thought Mr. Zhuang's story was good, and followed the protagonist's experience with all his heart, but the four of Manbao who had gone to school knew that Mr. Zhuang's stories were never told for nothing. There must be a meaning. The others were still ignorant, but Bai Shan had already thought about it. Mister, did you ask Brother Zhou and the others to use the power of the Yamen to complete this matter? Manbao also reacted, and she knew one more piece of information than Bai Shan. A light flashed in her mind, and she couldn't help shouting, Sir, people on the official road know about fourth brother being robbed. Did you say it outside? Mr. Zhuang reached out and tapped her forehead, and said with a smile, is that kind of person, sir? I just met a few people when I went to class, so I mentioned it. If it was other students, for example, facing the students of Daji Academy, he would not say such things, let alone do such things and teach them such things. Sir, you should teach your students to be a gentleman. But for these disciples, Mr. Zhuang is not just a gentleman. He brings people out, away from their parents and family members, so naturally he has to teach them well. So also do what parents and family members should teach them. A gentleman still has to do something, but he should have some scheming. But this is different from what the master taught them before, not to mention Bai Chen, even Man Bao and Bai Shan were taken aback for a while. On the contrary, Zhou Lejun adapted well. She felt that what Mr. Zhuang said was very reasonable and there was nothing wrong with it. Didn't the book also say that? Those who make big things don't stick to small details. Mr. Zhuang just told the truth. Zhou Lang finally came to his senses, slapped his thigh and said, "Sir, you are amazing." Then he looked at Mr. Zhuang with shining eyes. "You are right, this business has to be done early. Second brother, you can go take a shower, eat and sleep now, and leave the city as soon as the city gate opens tomorrow. We will get it earlier. The money is also at ease earlier." Zhou Lang was also convinced, and nodded. "Lao Lu, then you stay here to take care of Lao Si and the husband." Lu Liaolang nodded in a daze, and couldn't help but say to Zhou Lang in private, "Mr. Zhuang is really amazing, no wonder I think Man Bao is getting more and more powerful now." Zhou Lang thought to himself, "This is amazing, you haven't seen her more powerful yet." But he also remembered what Mr. Zhuang said just now. After Mr. Zhuang taught his disciples, he went to sleep contentedly, but he didn't know that the magistrate Tang comforted Mrs. Tang in the county government several blocks away from Kangxiu Street, and went into the study. The master had been waiting there for a long time, and when Magistrate Tang came, he immediately stood up and saluted. County Magistrate Tang waved his hand, signaling him not to be too polite, and sat behind the desk and asked, "How are you doing? Are everyone satisfied?" The master smiled wryly and said, "Satisfaction is impossible, but it has been appeased, my lord. Who do you think is publicizing the fact that the officialdom was robbed?" County Magistrate Tang has already found out, but the other party has no reason to do what he did, and he is above board, so he is not afraid of his investigation at all. What can he do? County Magistrate Tang said, "Don't worry about it, just calm down the families and wait until the robbers are caught." The master was taken aback, and asked, "Aren't you going to investigate those who spread rumors?" Magistrate Tang asked, "Is this a rumor?" "Master, looks like my lord knows who it is. I went hiking today, it's so cool." Then good night. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 724. When Tang County Magistrate investigated the case, he told the county lieutenant and government servants that it was strictly forbidden to spread the cause of this matter to the outside world. Anyway, they have portraits in their hands, so it is much easier to investigate. They can just find an excuse, such as stealing from a certain place, no matter whether they lost money or cattle. Anyway, it was the two people in the portrait who did it. It's easy to catch them first and then find the rest. Anyway, it can't be official robbery. Robbery in the official way is a robber. Yazoo has just settled down, but now a group of bandits are robbing passing merchants on the official road outside Yazoo City. Not only will it cause panic, but is he a county magistrate? He just snatched a lot of land from the Ying family and others. Most of them wanted to trample him down or drive him out of Yazoo City. But he didn't expect the village under his jurisdiction to be so ignorant, and the people he sent out didn't even find out those two people. County Magistrate Tang carefully questioned Zhou Lang to confirm that this was done by someone who is very familiar with officialdom. 1. Traveling merchants who often take this official road. 2. Refugees who often walk on this official road. 3. The nearby villagers. Even if traveling merchants are poor, they won't think highly of Zhou Lang's load of wheat seeds. What's more, poor traveling merchants are usually accompanied by 2 or 3 people. Small business is in the eye. And if it was done by the refugees, they would not just rob the wheat seeds, but would take the horses and carts together. Go down the official road, walk directly into the small path, or be more cruel, beat Zhou Lang to death and throw it in the forest. Unlucky, the body was found in 2 or 3 days, and they didn't know where they went. Sell the food and horses on the cart in another place, and after sharing the money, they mix with the refugees and follow them everywhere. Even if Tang County magistrate can finally find out where the carriages and horses are, and even draw portraits of most people and submit them to the Ministry of Criminal Justice, and then issue arrest warrants, but in the vast crowd, especially so many refugees who have lost their books, finding more than a dozen people among them is tantamount to finding a needle in a haystack. Only those with a family would have so many scruples, not daring to snatch the overly conspicuous carts and horses. Therefore, Magistrate Tang can be sure that the perpetrators are the nearby villagers. But the Yamen servant who took the portrait went to the village, but found nothing. Those 2 people couldn't have jumped out of the cracks in the rocks. Magistrate Tang knew that he had encountered the most difficult and annoying situation since he was handling the case. His father used to be from the Ministry of Criminal Justice. He said that the cases he hates the most are cases committed by locals, a family, a village, or even a foreigner from a village. It is obviously a well-known matter, and they themselves will not shy away from discussing it in private, but when the officials go to investigate, from the head of the village to the children, they will keep silent and ask 3 questions. It is because they are afraid of offending others. Before he came, his father had told him, first, to be neither humble nor overbearing in the face of the powerful, to think about the people under his rule, and to handle a case, no matter who the victim is, he must give them the account they deserve. Second, for those villagers, village chiefs who conceal the facts of the case, they must be soft and hard. It is best if he can understand the other party in a gentle manner. No, and the sentence must not be excessive. At that time, County Magistrate Tang didn't take it seriously, and didn't think that someone would obstruct the official's handling of the case for something completely irrelevant to him. But now, still very angry. So Magistrate Tang felt that since everyone made him unhappy, then he should make everyone unhappy. County Magistrate Tang asked the master to go back to rest with a sullen face, turned around and called the names of the 3 Yamen servants, and asked his servants to quietly call them over overnight. My lord, the Yamen servants bowed and saluted. Magistrate Tang nodded and asked, I remember that you are all from Yanjiawan and Awaping. Yes, my lord has a really good memory, the servants complimented me. Magistrate Tang smiled slightly and asked, do you have any relatives in Dagong Ridge? The 3 Yamen servants looked at each other, shook their heads and said, my lord, Yanjiawan and Awaping are far away from Dagongling, and the few of us didn't get close there. Magistrate Tang nodded in satisfaction, and then said, that's just right, I have something to entrust to you. Magistrate Tang asked them to change into plain clothes, and squatted on the hills around Dagongling to wait for arrest. Then he handed them the 2 portraits drawn by the artist. The Yamen servants quickly took it, and they all looked worried at each other. They all know that Magistrate Tang is handling an important case recently. After all, their county government is only that big, and there are only so many people. This case is not easy to handle. In the past, when I went to the countryside to ask the head of the village, even if he didn't know anything, he would actively help to ask the villagers. As a result, the people who went to the countryside this time were not soft or hard. The brother who took this case recently was very angry. It is said that even the county captain smashed a set of cups, obviously very angry. A case that so many people can't handle, relying on these 3 newcomers who have not been in the county government for 2 years. Yes, these 3 Yamen servants are very young, not only young, but also young when they entered the county Yamen. They were recruited after the Magistrate Tang came to recruit government servants. After all, after the flood, the former government servants, who died, also ran away, and many disappeared. The county government is short of people. Although Magistrate Tang did not engage in factions, the 3 of them still considered themselves Magistrate Tang, so although they found it difficult, they nodded and agreed after hesitation. Tang County Magistrate smiled slightly when he saw it, his face softened a lot, and he encouraged them to analyze. Don't be afraid, you rarely appear in the Dagongling area, and you are unfamiliar faces. Magistrate Tang said, I don't want you to enter those 2 or 3 villages either. I'll ask someone to inquire about it. The villagers in the Dagongling area like to collect firewood in the Nanling and Dongling areas. Now the weather is getting worse. Every family needs a lot of firewood, and they are no exception. I'll ask Sunda and the others to withdraw from Dagong Ridge and investigate other places. They will naturally appear as soon as they relax their vigilance. When you see one of them in the portrait, you will rush directly to arrest them. Magistrate Tang said, I don't want you both to be arrested, just one. One of the Yamen servants couldn't help asking, My lord, what if they appear in groups? I'm afraid we will be beaten to death before we can be caught. Judging from this case, these villagers are obviously very united. If they really arrested people on the spot, and they were wearing plain clothes, they would definitely be beaten to death as thieves. They couldn't speak for themselves then. Magistrate Tang cast a glance at them and said, You won't wait for someone to place an order before arresting them. He said, I don't care about the time, you can take 3 days, I also have 5 days, anyway, you have to squad people for me, just gag them and arrest them. As long as you can bring them back, I would like to give you great credit. Next update around 6 p.m. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 725. The 3 were very excited. Their qualifications are low, and many cases are thugs. When discussing merit, it is not bad to be on the sidelines, let alone great merit. The 3 retreated into the yard, and couldn't help whispering, You think we can really catch people? What you should ask is, are people really from the Dagongling area? One of them said, if not, let alone 5 days, even if we squad for 500 days, it won't work. Since your lord said yes, then it must be, the other said, when have you ever seen your lord handle a wrong case? Not really. That's it, we just go to squad, as long as we see people knock people out and get them back. Then shall we go to Nanling or Dongling? You stupid, there are 3 of us, we just need to squat separately. If he orders directly, we 3 brothers, who can be afraid of him? Besides, we still have knives in our hands. Yamen servant said, if he doesn't when you place an order, write down the location, and when we turn back, we will go to ambush nearby, and usually gather firewood, and everyone likes to be in the same place. Since he went there last time, he will definitely go there next time. The other 2 felt that what he said made sense, so they put their shoulders on their shoulders and planned to go back and add up. As a result, after leaving the gate of the courtyard, the servants who guarded outside led him quietly out through the back corner gate. Only then did they realize that the county magistrate had said that this matter should be kept secret, so not only could they not speak out, it was better not to get together and go out of the city separately. Yamen servant B couldn't help complaining in a low voice, if you're so careful, can there be spies in our county government? Yamen servant A said thoughtfully, spies will not be there, but don't forget that there are also Yamen servants in the county government who are very familiar with Dagongling. In this case, because they are more familiar, my lord sent the first. It was they who went to investigate, thinking that they were familiar and easy to talk to, and they knew people well, but you see. The 3 of them didn't speak any more, but they also felt the anger of Magistrate Tang. After all, they had been with Magistrate Tang for 2 years, and they knew that he usually looked smiling, but it was not easy to get angry. The only few times, which time did not the whole county government tremble with its heart. But this time Magistrate Tang was obviously more angry than before, because he didn't lose his temper, and even talked to them with a smile. The Yamen servants who were entangled in the 3 villages in Dagongling retired and began to investigate elsewhere. After 2 days, it seemed that they were sure that they were really safe. The person lying on Dongling finally found one of the robbers, but there were two people beside him, so he didn't dare to move. Then the next day, the three of them squatted together in Dongling. Sure enough, as soon as the sun came out, three people went up the mountain together to collect firewood, and one of them was the person in the portrait. In order to confirm, Yaman servant took out the portraits and compared them again and again. The three of them looked at each other, put away the portrait, and began to lie still behind the bushes. After waiting for a long time, the three finally separated a little bit, and each of them found a tree and cut off the forked branches. Yaman's servant saw the robbers climbing down the tree to drag the cut branches, so he took a careful look at the two people who were busy on the other two trees. Coincidentally, they were sitting on the tree with their backs to them, and the three of them were talking one after another. Yaman's servant gave a partner a wink, and stepped forward with the knife in his hand. When he couldn't think about it, he gently put the knife back into its sheath, and slipped behind the robber with the knife in his hand. The robber was squatting down, peeling off all the cut leaves, and then tied up the branches. When he noticed something strange behind him, he turned around quickly, but was slapped on the forehead by a scabbard. He screamed subconsciously, but he finally made a sound, and was thrown down by someone and held his mouth. He couldn't help whimpering, kicking his legs and struggling. As a result, his neck was lifted vigorously by a person, and then a scabbard cut it on the neck again. He rolled his eyes in pain, but he still didn't faint. The three Yaman servants didn't expect him to be so resistant to beatings. Seeing that the man on the tree seemed to have noticed something, they quickly covered his mouth, one of them lifted his foot, and the other dragged him behind the bushes. Not knowing where it hit, the robber rolled his eyes and fainted. The two people on the tree had already turned their heads. Seeing that there was no one behind them, they couldn't help shouting loudly, "Third brother, third child, where did you go?" The three people hiding behind the bushes were sweating profusely. The bushes were fairly lush, but they were sitting on the tree at this moment. As long as they stood up on the tree, they would definitely be able to see the four of them. Yaman's servant could only reply vaguely, holding his throat, "Piss." The one who turned back sat upright, turned his back to them again, and shouted, "Hurry up, there is still little firewood at home, our house has been delayed for several days, and the weather is going to be cold." The three Yaman servants had already picked up the robber and slipped away quickly. The man on the tree didn't hear any response after finishing his chanting, so he felt something was wrong, and the brother on another tree not far away also felt something was wrong, and shouted, "Brother." The third child didn't reply. The one who was muttering turned around immediately, and saw that the third child was still quietly behind him, and couldn't help but shouted, "The third child, the third child." There was only his echo in the woods, and nothing else but the bird song. The two brothers sitting on the tree turned pale and felt bad, so they hurriedly slipped down the tree to find someone. The three Yaman servants carried him all the way to the official road, stopped a car at random, showed their IDs, and then quickly returned to the city. Master Tang is really clever, saying that if they can find people in Dongling and Nanling, they will be able to find people. The three excitedly dragged, oh no, carried the robber back to the county government. County Magistrate Tang saw the people they brought back, and listened to them describe in detail how they captured them. After a satisfied smile, he praised, "Good job, you have worked hard these few days, go back and rest first, and I will give you credit for closing the case." The eyes of the three of them lit up, and they quickly bent down and lowered their heads, saying, "Your Excellency, this is what a humble person should do. This is just polite talk." If County Magistrate Tang really doesn't give them credit, they are not sure how to complain. County Magistrate Tang waited for them to leave, then stared at the robbers lying on the ground for a long time, then waved his hand, summoned the Yaman servant who was standing beside him in shock, and said, "Go, take the county lieutenant, come here, and send someone to Dagong Ridge to summon the two chiefs. County Magistrate Tang paused and said, "Let's go to Jishi Hall again and invite Dr. Zhou here." He smiled slightly and said, "People who are in a coma will never die. It just so happens that she is still a member of the suffering master's family. It would be best if she came." The Yamen servant went away trembling. He always felt that today's Magistrate Tang was a bit strange. He seemed very angry, but also seemed very happy. "Good night, I can go home tomorrow afternoon, happy." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 726. Man Bao was the fastest to come. First, Ji Shitang was close, and second, there were no patients in the pharmacy. As soon as the Yamen servant called, she packed up her things very quickly and came. And she didn't come alone, she came with Bai Shan. The two of them were so fast that Magistrate Tang had finished ordering all kinds of things before sitting down and drinking 2 sips of tea. And the county lieutenant who was working in the courtyard next door didn't come. Carrying his own pannier on his back, Man Bao ran into the lobby together with Bai Shan from the outside, first bowed to Tang County Magistrate perfunctorily, then looked around and asked, "Master Tang, where is he?" Magistrate Tang didn't get up either, and pointed his finger directly at the ground behind the pillar next to him. Bai Shan was the first to run over, only to find that there was a mat on the ground, and a person was lying on the mat with his eyes closed, and there were blue marks on his forehead and face. The two hands were crossed on the chest, looking particularly peaceful. Man Bao, who ran in behind, was shocked. "Is he dead?" "Magistrate Tang, you are a doctor, you can't tell whether he is fainted or dead." Man Bao went up to touch his neck, and then said, "Oh," raised his head and said to the two, "It's alive." Magistrate Tang looked at Bai Shan curiously, and asked, "Why are you here?" "Bai Shan, I came with Man Bao." Magistrate Tang smiled slightly and said, "I'm not blind, I'm just asking, aren't you going to school today? Are you so free?" Bai Shan looked at him sympathetically and said, "My lord, today is 28, and tomorrow is 29. We will have a 2-day holiday." Tang County Magistrate slapped his forehead and said, "It's already 28, no, shouldn't your 10-day holidays be 29 and first day?" The school officials said that the plan for a day lies in the morning, and the plan for a month lies in the first day of junior high school, so the rules in the school have been changed. From now on, there will be no holidays for the first day of junior high school, and everyone will go back to school to attend classes. Magistrate Tang was very curious, but the first day of junior high school, what if some students want to accompany the elderly at home to go up the mountain to worship Buddha and visit Taoism? Bai Shan said with a blank face. The school officials said, "This is filial piety, if they ask for leave, the school officials should approve." Magistrate Tang rubbed his chin and asked thoughtfully, "Why do you think the leave of absence will be approved by the school officials?" "It depends on the situation. Some academic officers like gorgeous articles, some academic officers like simple ones, and some academic officers want to know if you are lying or not honest." County Magistrate Tang understood that the approval of leave depends entirely on their preferences. He couldn't help laughing out loud, and clapped his hands and said, "This is a good idea. There are often complaints from Taoist people near Buddhist temples and Taoist temples. On the first day of every month, there are always people around the fields who hurt the seedlings by riding horses. Some of them happen to meet. It's okay to say that they can always get it some compensation, but some only left horseshoe prints. I checked and checked, and the students who did the most are the students of your government school." Bai Shandao, "It's not me, I don't need to pay respects to the Buddha, nor do I need to visit Taoism. I didn't say it was you." The two of them were gossiping here, while Man Bao put down his backpack, began to look at his eyelids, felt his pulse, and asked Magistrate Tang, except for the forehead and face, where else is it hurt? County Magistrate Tang looked down at the people on the ground leisurely, and said, I caught his subordinates who squatted for several days before they got there, so I let them go back to rest. Aren't you a doctor? Just guess for yourself, Bar. Man Bao, can this be guessed? She is a doctor, not a fortune teller. However, there are only a few ways to make people faint. Seeing that he couldn't wake up for a while, Man Bao grabbed his shoulders and wanted to turn him over to see his neck and the back of his head. Bai Shan knelt down to help. County Magistrate Tang saw that she was groping here and there, and she actually took out the needle bag from the back basket. He couldn't help but walked over 2 steps, bent down to look at it for a while and said, Are you really planning to treat him? Man Bao was stunned, then raised his head and asked, Didn't you call me here to cure him? County Magistrate Tang coughed lightly, and quickly said, That's right, you are the one to treat him, let's put the rest aside, wake him up first. Bai Shan glanced at him, and then became a little more impolite with his hands, and forced his shoulder to his side, so that Man Bao on the opposite side could take a closer look. Man Bao nodded at Tang County Magistrate, indicating that there was no problem at all. Then the two saw her pick out the needles in the needle bag. It seemed that the more they picked, the thicker and longer they were. Not only Magistrate Tang, but also Bai Shan averted his eyes. Tang County Magistrate was afraid that his eyes would be dizzy, so he turned his face away from looking at the long needles that Man Bao picked out, and asked, Is he all right? Can he be punished? Man Bao said, There is nothing serious about him, but he was hit on the head, so he passed out. Magistrate Tang nodded, looked down at the robber, and felt that something was wrong. Why did he feel that this man's eyelids were trembling? Bai Shan also didn't want to look at the needle Man Bao picked out, and the person carrying it was a bit heavy, so he also stared at him. He also noticed that his eyelids were trembling. Bai Shan blinked, looked up at Man Bao who was opposite. Seeing that Man Bao finally picked out a needle that she was particularly satisfied with, he raised his smiling face and smiled sweetly at him, saying, Okay, let him be put down. As soon as Bai Shan let go, the robber fell down on the mat with a thud. Man Bao pinched a thick and long needle into his Renzhong A appointment quickly and accurately. The person whose eyes were still closed opened them suddenly, screaming. Man Bao said leisurely, Call it, the louder you scream, the more the needle will go in, and eventually he will be completely submerged. The robber rolled his eyes and fainted. County Magistrate Tang, I asked you to rule people, not to scare people into unconsciousness. How can I interrogate people when they are fainted? Man Bao didn't expect him to be so unintimidated, a little embarrassed, and quickly pulled out the needle. Bai Shan said, What's the matter, just prick it again and change to a thicker needle. Man Bao said, No matter how thick it is, it won't be easy to pierce. Then she stuck the needle she had just pulled out again, and turned it around twice, and the already dizzy person opened his eyes again with a swish. Man Bao smiled, and quickly pulled out the needle this time. As soon as the robber covered his nose, he looked tremblingly at the 3 people surrounding him, and there were quite a few government servants guarding him. Magistrate Tang straightened up and asked kindly, When did you wake up? The robber trembled, Just now. Magistrate Tang smiled slightly, regardless of whether what he said was true or not. With a wave of his hand, 2 Yamen servants rushed up and escorted him to the center of the hall to kneel. It was the first time that Man Bao and Bai Shan had seen the robbers being interrogated, and they were a little excited, and immediately stood beside Magistrate Tang. Magistrate Tang glanced at them and said nothing. At this time, the county lieutenant hadn't come yet. County Magistrate Tang twitched his lips slightly, and without waiting for him, he picked up the gavel and slapped it, saying, The names and household registrations of those kneeling in the hall, report them all. Farmer's blessed girl. Author, Yu Zhu. Chapter 727. The robber knelt down and shivered, but didn't say a word. County Magistrate Tang narrowed his eyes, glanced at the yamen servants below, and said with a slight smile, "Come on, please go and ask the county magistrate again, and say that the robbers are awake, and they will wait for the trial in a while, and I want him to bring them with you people to arrest." Yes. This place is not far from the next door, and it was the second time Tang County Magistrate sent someone to invite him, and the county captain came not long after. He swept the kneeling people in the hall and bowed to Tang County Magistrate, explaining, "The lower officials are arranging the winter for the villages, so they are late. Winter is coming, for the sake of safety, the county captain has to make some arrangements, especially the newly built refugee village." These refugees were all newly assembled. In order to reduce disputes and various safety hazards, he had to arrange some people to go to the village to be responsible for the safety of each village. This is what the county lieutenant has been busy with recently, and County Magistrate Tang is also very concerned about it. So he didn't say anything, just nodded slightly to the county captain with a smile, motioned him to sit aside and listen, and said, "Forget about other cases, but the robbers appearing on the official road need your assistance, so I ask you to come and listen together. Listen." The county lieutenant bowed and said yes, and then sat down on the chair next to him. After sitting down, he realized that there were two people standing beside Magistrate Tang, and they both looked very familiar. The county lieutenant couldn't help but twitched his brows. County Magistrate Tang was not in a hurry to interrogate. Seeing him looking at Bai Shan and Man Bao, he explained with a smile, "The people under his command are not serious, and he was knocked out when he was captured. Seeing that he has not woken up for a long time. So I asked people to invite Dr. Zhou Xiao from Jishitang to take a look. As for why Bai Shan is here, do you need an explanation?" The county lieutenant didn't ask about this, but said hesitantly, "Then now." Magistrate Tang smiled slightly and said, "I asked them to stay. It just so happens that the previous victim who was robbed was Dr. Xiao Zhou's elder brother. They are a family and they are the ones who suffer, so I let her stay listening in." The county lieutenant nodded with a smile, and praised, "My lord is still considerate." The robber looked up at Man Bao in surprise, and obviously realized that Man Bao was the sister of the person they robbed that day. Seeing him looking at her, Man Bao grinned at him. The robber shuddered. Seeing that she was standing so close to Magistrate Tang, and what he heard just now when he was pretending to be unconscious, it was obvious that they were acquaintances. This is someone with a background. The background is still their parents and officials. The robber's face was so pale that he lost all blood, and he collapsed to the ground. Without the county magistrate Tang interrogating him, he rolled his eyes and became dizzy. Magistrate Tang. County lieutenant, didn't he just say my lord is considerate? What are you dizzy about? The county lieutenant was very angry. Magistrate Tang looked at Man Bao. Man Bao silently took the needle bag and went up, but this time there was the county lieutenant. She did not pierce his Renshong appointment, but picked up a sharp needle, pulled his right hand, found an appointment and pricked it. After turning a few times, he woke up faintly again. Man Bao looked at him faintly and said, "Don't get dizzy anymore. If you get dizzy again, I'll prick your hands." Then stare at his nose. The robber trembled and said nothing. Tang County Magistrate saw his Iron Wei and said with a smile, "I didn't expect this robbery to be so timid. Those who don't know think he is the one who suffers." The county lieutenant also nodded, and said in agreement, "Some people only look docile on the surface, but they are very fierce behind the scenes. You don't have much contact with adults, so you don't know that such villains are really dangerous." Master Tang nodded and waved Man Bao back. Then he patted the gavel again, interrogated the robber, and asked, "Well, what's your name, where do you live, and who else is there?" The robber quickly kowtowed, and shouted, I am wronged, my lord, I am really wronged, I don't know why I was arrested here. Master Tang patted the gavel hard, and shouted, I didn't ask what happened to you, but what was your name, where did you live, and who else was there? The robber trembled and didn't speak, his heart flustered like numbness. Brother Dashu only said that whoever was caught would not be able to confess other people even if he was killed, but he didn't say whether he should say his name when asked. What if the county magistrate later arrested their family members? While he was thinking wildly, a yamen servant came in and said, My lord, the 2 miles of Dagongling have arrived. Magistrate Tang smiled slightly, and said, Gag his mouth, drag him down to the hall, and beat him with a board. Beat him softly. He will be interrogated later. My lord, how many boards should I hit? Magistrate Tang waved his hand indifferently and said, You can fight as you please. The yamen servants have long been accustomed to the various strange orders of the magistrate of Tang County, so this did not seem strange at all, so they gagged the man's mouth and dragged him out to beat the board. County Magistrate Tang saw that they had started fighting, so he said, Please come in, the district chiefs. Those who can be chiefs are generally not young, and the 2 chiefs came in together soon. As soon as they entered the lobby, they had to kneel down. Halfway through their kneeling, they found that Magistrate Tang had no intention of stopping them, so the 2 of them could only kneel firmly to say hello. The hearts of both of them were a little heavy, and they obviously saw the people playing the board outside. County Magistrate Tang didn't speak for a while, and the 2 of them lay on the ground without daring to get up. The sound of the outer panel hitting the flesh seemed to be hitting their hearts. The county lieutenant lowered his eyes. Mr. Tang's deterrent trick is really useful, but he has to say, he used it very well, because even if he already knew that the people outside the hall didn't say anything, he couldn't bear it. Hold on to your heart. Looking at the 2 chiefs who were kneeling on the ground, their foreheads slowly dripping with sweat, and trembling, he knew that the county magistrate had won again this time. Bai Shanyi and Man Bao looked at each other, their eyes sparkling. Magistrate Tang drank 2 sips of tea, and after a long time, the yamen servant outside the door came in to report, My lord, he has fainted again. Magistrate Tang. He looked at Man Bao. Man Bao quietly went out to wake people up. However, Magistrate Tang didn't ask them to beat him again, but he didn't bring him back, but let him lie on the bench. Then his eyes fell on the 2 chiefs, and he threw down the 2 portraits in his hand, let them flow to their side, and asked, More Likane, son Likane, my last question is now you once, do you know these 2? The 2 lieutenants were dripping with cold sweat. Man Bao looked worried. She felt that if these 2 fainted, the situation might be more serious than the robbers who fainted after being hit by a board outside. Magistrate Tang was not in a hurry, they didn't speak, so he waited. Anyway, he was sitting, they were kneeling, and he still had tea to drink, so what was he afraid of? After being silent for a long time, Chief Mori finally couldn't help it anymore, and said in a low voice, My lord, these 2 people vaguely look familiar, but the young old man is dim-witted and doesn't quite remember, so he dare not mistakenly recognize him. It will be updated tomorrow, good night. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 728. County Magistrate Tang said indifferently, 100 households in a mile, how many people can there be in one household? You have lived here for generations and grew up here, but you can't even recognize the people in 100 households. I am curious, how do you choose the one who is the chief? Cold sweat dripped off Mo Likane's forehead. County Magistrate Tang picked up the gavel and slapped it fiercely, and shouted angrily, The government and the people have colluded and shielded each other. Are you targeting this official, or are you all thinking about becoming a bandit and rebelling against the Great Jin? Upon hearing the words, Chief Mo Li and Chief Sun Li fell to the ground and shouted, My lord, forgive me, we have absolutely no intention of rebelling. Chief Mori turned his head to look at Li Chief's son, and shouted, "Li Chief's son, do you still want to protect the clansmen?" Sun Likane's face turned pale for a moment, and when he sensed a sharp gaze falling on him, he couldn't help but gritted his teeth secretly, but he didn't dare to show anything on his face, and immediately lay down on the ground to plead guilty. "My lord, forgive me, the little old man is guilty. The person being tortured in the hall is called Wang San, and he is a member of our family." County Magistrate Tang said expressionlessly, "But his surname is not Sun either." Sun Likane was dripping with cold sweat, and said with a guilty conscience, "There is a clansman named Sun Dashu. 2 days ago, the little old man occasionally heard a news that Sun Dashu took 2 or 3 nearby villages to play well. After a trip, I ended up earning a sum of money and returning," he said, "because they are a group of young people who are idle all day long. I was very happy when I heard the news. I thought they had grown up and knew how to make progress. But later I vaguely heard that the money came from a dishonest account. This matter Chief Mori also knows, because there are several young people among them." Now Mori gritted his teeth. Magistrate Tang's eyes fell on Chief Mori. Chief Mori could only answer yes, and said, "It's just vaguely heard, and there is no actual evidence. After all, we are outsiders, so we can't come to ask them how to make money. Those who don't know think we want to rob them. Their livelihood. Why are the officials I sent to investigate them always being perfunctory?" Mo Likane and Sun Likane called Chu together, and said, "My lord, I really didn't perfunctory. The portraits brought by the men are very blurry. Maybe it's because we are old and dim-sighted, so we really can't recognize the paintings." "People." Magistrate Tang sneered. "Doesn't he know that the portrait is not blurred? The original painting was drawn by Bai Shan. The client, Jojo Lang, said that he looked very similar, and he hired an artist to take a picture. He compared it himself, and it was not much different from the real person. Now tell him that the painting is blurry. Is this making him stupid?" Bai Shan was also very upset. After all, he was the one who drew the original painting. Very serious, Bai Shan directly stepped forward to pick up Wang San's portrait, walked up to him, compared his face carefully, and said, "Master Tang, although this portrait is not very similar to a real person, it is 70% like it. I don't believe that people who are familiar with Wang San will not recognize him." Mo Likane and Sun Likane looked up at Bai Shan quietly, wondering what this young man was doing and where he came from. So he frowned slightly. Bai Shan glanced at them and said, "My lord, the 2 village chiefs said that they are too old to be blind and can't recognize it. Could it be that the people in the 3 villages are also blind? It can be seen that they are deliberately covering up." Mo loved Tang County Magistrate, but not Bai Shan. Hearing this, he said, "You little boy, how can you talk nonsense without evidence? My lord, everything we say is true, and we really have no intention of hiding it." Magistrate Tang smiled at Bai Shan. "What do you say?" Bai Shan took the painting and went back to Manbao, saying, "Let's just treat what you're telling the truth, my lord. It's obvious that the 2 Li elders are so dizzy that they are negligent in their duties. The Li chief is supposed to manage the villagers on behalf of the court, but they don't even recognize their own 100 households, so how can they manage the villagers well on behalf of the imperial court?" Bai Shan lightly lowered his head and glanced at the 2 kneeling on the ground, and said, "Your Excellency, why don't you sympathize with them and let them go home for the elderly?" Magistrate Tang nodded slightly, and said with a smile, "You're right." Mo Likane and Sun Likane were pale, but they breathed a sigh of relief in their hearts. Magistrate Tang smiled slightly and said, "However, even if Chief Mo Li and Li Chief Sun have done something, they have managed the villagers for many years on behalf of the imperial court. If they have done something, they will be punished, and if they have meritorious service, they will naturally be rewarded. Come here, and first ask for help." Chief Mo Li and Li Chief Sun went to live in Ho Ya, and tomorrow I will invite some chiefs to come and reward the two chiefs for their meritorious deeds. Chief Mo Li and Li Chief Sun were taken aback for a moment, and immediately fell to the ground to decline. Don't dare, dare not, we wait for such troublesome people to appear under our rule. It's fine if the Lord doesn't punish us, how dare we talk about merit? County Magistrate Tang said with a half smile, the two old men are joking. We will be rewarded for meritorious deeds, and of course we will be punished for misconduct. Mo Likang and Sun Likang felt a chill in their hearts, knowing that he didn't leave them to reward them for their merits, but waited to punish them. But the two of them thought about it carefully. They did, but there seemed to be no actual evidence to prove their guilt. At most, it's negligence. They killed people who couldn't recognize the painting. Who can say they recognize it? After all, the two of them are really old. The Yamen servant took the two of them down. Magistrate Tang looked at their backs and sneered. Man Bao stared at Magistrate Tang, then whispered to Bai Shan, I think you were tricked by Magistrate Tang. Bai Shan was not stupid, he said, are you saying that I shouldn't be the first bird? Man Bao, be careful that they hold your grudge against you. Bai Shandao, then what should I do? I'm angry, and I just want to get back. Seeing the two of them whispering in front of him, County Magistrate Tang couldn't help but nodded and said, can you restrain yourself? Man Bao and Bai Shan immediately quieted down. Robber 1, no, it was Wang San, who was dragged up immediately. County Magistrate Tang added some tea for himself, took another sip, and waved. The clerk immediately took a newly discovered household registration booklet and stepped forward, saying, my lord, according to Mr. Sun's confession, we have found Wang San's household registration. His name is Wang San, a family of 8 people, both parents, 2 elder brothers, both of whom are married, and a nephew, who lives in the 28th household of Sunjia village. Wang San, who was lying on the ground, looked pale. County Magistrate Tang glanced at him, dropped a stick and said, come here, go and bring the entire Wang family. Wang San immediately raised his head, took 2 steps forward and said, my lord, this is none of my family's business. They don't know anything, they don't know anything. Magistrate Tang asked with a sneer, what is none of their business? Wang San's face choked. Magistrate Tang continued to ask, it's none of their business, so whose business is it? Sun Dashu? Who else is besides Sun Dashu? After Tang County Magistrate asked, he slapped the gavel hard, and asked, let me ask you again, whether to recruit or not. If you don't recruit, someone will recruit for you. At that time, I won't have the time to listen to you. You said something and nothing. The officials took your portrait and went to the door of your house, but your parents and elder brothers denied it. This is the crime of covering up. No matter how serious the crime you committed, they will also suffer. What a punishment. Next update around 4 p.m. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 729. Even Li Chang's son and Mo Li couldn't withstand the pressure of County Magistrate Tang, so Wang San, who had just been beaten up, couldn't either. It was almost after County Magistrate Tang's voice fell that he burst into tears and snot. Crying and calling everything up. It's just a mess. Brother Dashu took the few of us to go together, saying that we only rob things and don't sell them. We just mix the wheat seeds with our own wheat seeds, and no one can tell. Magistrate Tang could only ask one sentence at a time, besides Sun Dashu, who else is with you? Wang San reported one by one. There were 13 people in total, all young people from the 3 nearby villages. They usually played together and knew each other very well. Magistrate Tang looked at the clerks, and the clerks took notes one by one. He continued to ask, Did you know what was in Zhou Hulang's car before the robbery? Yes, Wang San gradually calmed down, and finally answered in a more orderly manner. He said, "We all know that Zhou Zhoulang sells new wheat seeds." "How do you know?" "We've seen him sell it," Wang San said. "Many people in the village bought it from him. If the wheat seed wasn't too expensive, our family would also want to buy it." Man Bao said, "Nonsense, the wheat seeds in our family are obviously very cheap. You can go to the grain store to see the prices of new wheat and old wheat." Wang San, "My family can't even afford it." Bai Shan asked unkindly, "So it can be robbed?" Wang San lowered his head and did not speak. Magistrate Tang patted the gavel and asked, "Who proposed to rob it?" "Brother Big Tree." Magistrate Tang raised his chin and said, "Tell me, why did you think of going to grab the wheat seeds? Is that cart full of wheat seeds enough for you to share?" Wang San drooped his head and said, "My lord, our family's land is only 3 acres, and their family's land is not much. This cart has enough wheat seeds, and there are still some left." Magistrate Tang raised his eyebrows slightly, glanced at the clerk and continued to ask, "What about the rest?" "It's all in Brother Dash's place. We plan to sell it after the news has passed. As for the new wheat seeds, the new wheat seeds that have been sold at the grain store outside have been sold for 200 yuan a bucket." Man Bao sneered. He disliked her fourth brother's expensive price, but when he turned around, he decided based on the price of the grain store. Wang San couldn't understand his sneer. Magistrate Tang glanced at her warningly, took out a token and handed it to the county magistrate. "Since there are confessions and witnesses, there is no need for physical evidence now. Please ask the magistrate." Wei took people there to arrest Sun Dashu and others, as well as the wheat seeds hidden in his place. The county lieutenant hurriedly bowed to take it, and stepped back after saying yes. With a wave of his hand, the county lieutenant hurriedly took away a group of yamen servants. Magistrate Tang squinted his eyes for a while, beckoned to a yamen servant who was still in the hall, and ordered in a low voice, "Go and tell the people who went down to the village with the county lieutenant, let them go to the house of Chief Sun Li, Mo Li. If someone misses the point, let's say that Li Chang Sun and Li Chang Mo were arrested for covering up the criminals, and they might be questioned by the whole family. The yamen servant should go down." Magistrate Tang sat up straight, and when he looked up, he met Shang Manbao and Bai Shan Liang's shining eyes. He paused, and then smiled at them. The clerk finally found something, brought up a booklet to show him, and whispered in his ear. Magistrate Tang flipped through the booklet and asked, "Wang San, so many people in your family only plant 3 acres of land. How much of it can be used to grow wheat?" Wang Sandao, "There is only 1.5 acres, and there are 6 parts of it that are used to grow rice. The rest is very bad dry land, which can only be used to grow beans." Tang County Magistrate flipped through the booklet in his hand. "In the 3rd and 5th years of Dajhan, your 2 elder brothers were allotted land as adults. They also gave them 8 acres of land per person. How did your family sell so much land?" Wang San was confused for a moment, and said, "It seems that my elder brother and second brother sold some when they were talking about their marriage, and then sold some to buy food after the flood 3 years ago. I am so confused. There are only 3 acres of land left in my family now. Gone." County Magistrate Tang rubbed his forehead and asked, "So your family farms 3 mu of land a year?" "No, we also rented the Chang family's field." County Magistrate Tang stared at the booklet for a long time, and finally closed the booklet and asked, "Is it the Chang family whose family members are officials in the palace?" "That's right, that's the old man." Magistrate Tang swiped the teacup in his hand, finally looked at Man Bao and Bai Shan and said, "It's getting late, you should go back to have lunch. You have listened to this interrogation for a long time. Tell Zhou Zhoulang when you go back, and say I have already caught him, and I will give him an explanation. The rest should not be within their ear." Man Bao and Bai Shan looked at each other, bowed together and then took their leave. When he arrived outside the county government office, Man Bao glanced back at the lobby, and said humbly, "Isn't Chang Chenchi of the Yizhu Prince's mansion taking advantage of others to buy land? Is there anything we can't let us know?" Man Bao said, "I also know that the big families of Yizhu Palace, Ying family and Ji family took advantage of the danger of the disaster victims to enclose many lands." Bai Shan didn't understand either. "That's right, which of these things is not uglier than this one? Bigger? Is there anything we can't let us know?" Man Bao looked up at the time, didn't bother to go back to the pharmacy, and simply climbed onto the carriageway. Let's go home." Zhou Hulang's arm is still not healed, but people can already jump freely. Yesterday he tied his hands and asked Zhou Lejun to lead Lu Liaolang to call Chen Erlang and others, and gather all 14 people he invited together get to know each other. Seeing that Saner and the others were so young, Chen Erlang opened his mouth in surprise. Lu Liaolang didn't care, he had already been working in the field when he was so old, just driving the car, it was easy, as long as the car didn't overturn, so he felt that they had no problems at all. Zhou Lang said, "There are 15 of you in total, so we will rent 15 cars." He said, "Go back with an empty car. At that time, our village will invite another group of people. Don't worry, the road is very safe." We also invited the county government officials to help watch the road. Chen Erlang and others immediately flattered him, "Brother Zhou is really good, and he can even invite people in the yamen." Zhou Lang said reservedly, "After all, this business is done with the county government. The county magistrate is also very concerned." Zhou Lejun raised his hand outside, and seeing that his fourth uncle didn't see her, he said loudly, "Fourth uncle, and me, let's rent a 16 car." Zhou Lang asked, "Do you want to go home? 16 cars are fine, and one more car can pull a little more." Chen Erlang bite the bullet and said, "Brother Zhou, it's not good to bring women in this business, right?" Zhou Lang glanced at him and said, "Who said that? Every time I do business, I take my niece with me. If I don't take her with me, who will settle the score for me? Originally, I only wanted to use the word killing, but firstly, I was afraid that you would not be able to associate it with the previous chapter, and secondly, I was afraid of shielding, so I think it is better to borrow a knife to kill someone." The next update will be around 8 p.m. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 730. Chen Erlang. So in the end, Zhou Lang asked Saturday Lang to carry a large bag of money, and led a group of people. After bargaining with the shopkeeper of the car dealership, he rented 16 mule carts. Then Zhou Lejun settled the accounts, counted out the money to pay the accounts, and kept the accounts. In the end, they left the city early this morning. 16 empty cars. Oh, no, they still contained something, such as the rations for the 16 of them. It will be held by Lu Liaolang, and Zhou Lejun will be in charge of the management. The Zhou family brothers never thought about the rule that it is best not to bring women in business. After careful calculation, the family can have what it is today, or it started with Man Bao. So Zhou Lang and Saturday Lang scoffed at this kind of rule. Early this morning, Man Bao sent them off first, and then went to the pharmacy. When he got home, only Aunt Rong and Zhou Lang were in the small courtyard. Man Bao ran into the kitchen and asked, "Sir, haven't they come back yet?" Aunt Rong smiled and said, "No, I guess I won't come back until I have dinner." Man Bao nodded, then ran to see Zhou Lang again, and saw Zhou Lang was lying on the bed and fast asleep. She couldn't see it, so she pushed him and said, "Fourth brother, the sun is just right outside, why did you sleep?" Zhou Lang moved his body and said, "I can't work, so why don't I sleep? It's good to go out and bask in the sun. I heard that basking in the sun can grow bones." "Are you fooling around? You grow bones in the sun?" "I only heard that gnawing bones can grow bones. If you can grow bones in the sun, Then children don't need to eat and drink, and they can just go out to the sun every day. When Bai Shan heard it outside the window, he burst out laughing, but the more he laughed, the happier he couldn't stop. Man Bao leaned over to the window and stared at him. What are you laughing at? Bai Shan wiped the tears from the corners of his eyes and said, I thought, according to what Brother Joe said, a child only grows bones, and he doesn't grow flesh. Man Bao nodded again, and found something to refute. That's right, eating is for gaining weight. Then she looked at Jojo Lang with disdain and said, look at you, you have not basked in the sun for the past few days, and you have not moved. You eat a lot of food. You only grow flesh but not bones. Now you are fat. Jojo Lang's eyes lit up in surprise, and asked, really? Real? Great. Zhou Lang touched his face with his good hand and asked, are you really fat? Man Bao nodded. Zhou Lang also went to ask Bai Shan. Bai Shan looked at him carefully, then nodded and said, it's really a little fatter. Zhou Lang was filled with regret. I knew I should go home with Lao Lu and the others. Anyway, I don't need to drive the car to do work, I just need to sit. What are you going home for? Let your fourth sister-in-law take a look, Zhou Lang said with a dreamy face. I have gained weight, so I must be more handsome now than before, so I have to let your fourth sister-in-law take a look. In case I lose weight again, what should I do? Man Bao took a few steps back and looked at the fourth brother seriously, and couldn't help but nodded. Not to mention, fourth brother, you really look handsome after getting a little fatter. Bai Shan also nodded. Zhou Lang's heart hurt even more, and he regretted so much that he missed half a bowl of rice at night. He didn't know that on Saturday Lang, who had just returned to the village in a mighty way, jumped out of the mule cart and was stopped by Mrs. Fang. She held 6 heads and asked him, how is your fourth brother? Is he better? Can he get out of bed now? Are you moving? Lu Liaolang was stunned for a moment and said, yes, can't the fourth brother always get out of bed? Then he looked at his second brother, how he told his fourth sister-in-law when he came back, and how he felt like his fourth brother was going to die. Feng Shi at the side gave him a sideways glance and said, if Sisao asks you, you should answer honestly. See what your second brother is doing. Then he went to comfort Fang. Don't worry, his second brother and sixth brother both agreed, then it must be good, and you are not going? We will see you at the latest. Huh? Fourth sister-in-law is going too. Fang's face was worried. I'm worried. Saturday Lang said, there is nothing to worry about. Except for the left hand that can't move, the fourth brother is very good now. He took us to rent a car yesterday. He bargained with the shopkeeper of the car dealer. His voice was louder than that. No, those who knew thought they were going to fight. Lu Liaolang glanced at the 6 heads in her arms, blinked and asked, sister-in-law Si, don't you still want to take the child with you? Of course, his father's hand is broken, how can a son not go and have a look? Saturday Lang said, you'd better not go, this cart is heavy enough to hold wheat, how can it, ouch. Before he finished speaking, Lu Liaolang was pulled away by Feng's ears. Feng hates iron for being weak, no wonder you can't marry a wife, it's why you can't marry a wife. Saturday Lang was wronged, but he was right, because they rented a lot of mules, and this time the car dealer sent a man to follow, just to see that they were not allowed to abuse the mules. There are a lot of things on this cart. If there are 2 more people, then a bag of wheat seeds will have to be brought down. The whole old Joe's house was very lively. There were so many people in the house that they couldn't live there. Fortunately, the weather wasn't very cold now, so everyone built a shed and rolled up the quilt for 2 nights. But you can't be sloppy when it comes to eating and drinking. Although the old Joe is picky, he thinks that the visitors are guests, and these people are hired by his son. Of course, he must treat him well, otherwise what if he doesn't work hard? So the family was busy cooking. Zhou Wulang felt sorry for his wife. Seeing her squatting and washing vegetables in cold water, he stepped forward, pushed her aside and washed them by himself. Feng pulled Lu Lialang's ear to see it, and said in a low voice, "Did you see it? Did you see it? You and the fifth child are only 2 years apart, why can't you open your mind?" Lu Lialang rescued his ear and shouted, "I am sick after marrying a daughter-in-law and coming back to help her wash the vegetables." After that, he ran away. The Feng family can't catch people at all. She couldn't help complaining to Xiao Qian, "Lao Lu is obviously not young anymore, but he still looks like a child." Xiao Qian smiled and said, "It's just that I haven't realized it yet, it will be fine in a few years. In a few years, I will become an old bachelor, and it will be difficult to marry a wife. No, our family is not short of money now, as long as we want to marry, what kind of wife can't we marry?" Xiao Qian thought very happily, and said with a smile, "And my mother is not in a hurry yet." Fen knows that sister-in-law and mother-in-law have always been closer and understand her mother-in-law better. Since she said so, then mother-in-law is really not in a hurry, so she can only stop mentioning this matter. "But I don't know why, all the people of the right age in the family are married, and there is only one, she looks very awkward." After everyone was greeted and everyone went to rest, old Joe took a bong and sat on the threshold to smoke. The next update will be around 9 p.m.